Horoscoped, over to you.
Hello, hello. I'm horoscoped. I've been on YouTube for 11 years, I think. It's been quite a while, covering things from Nintendo games to horror games, which is now my main thing. Alongside that, I also did indie development. So obviously, I'm here for that. Um, with Zardy's Maze was the first game we made, which was in 2020, and then we had Zardy's Cave Chapter One come out in 2024. Also today, you're going to be hearing about Fall of Zarada, which is a sort of an expansion of that universe. We have these indie games that we made, and now this is the sort of the story behind it. So, or the story that's been sort of like breadcrumbs up to this point. A more cohesive look at that world. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to share the knowledge I've learned along this journey with all of you.
Yeah.
I think when you're a creator on YouTube, or any kind of creator, over time, if you do the same thing in every day over and over for years on end, you will eventually lose that drive, or maybe it's not as inspiring anymore. I'm gonna point out SpongeBob. There's an episode in SpongeBob which is very interesting. It's when Squidward goes to a town full of Squidwards, and it's all his hobbies, right? And every day he can indulge in those hobbies, and it's super fun. Eventually, he gets bored because there's no variety, and also he's just been doing the same thing every single day. He eventually hates clarinet, right? So I think with YouTube and making videos or any kind of creative craft, if you are a creative individual, you're going to want to pivot at some point or try something new because it breathes fresh air into things. It's a challenge again. You no longer have to, you don't, like, for me, YouTube's autopilot. Like, I know everything that goes in, I know how long it's going to take. And so switching gears allowed me to really get in tune with that creative spirit again. And then channel that into an actual game. And I think Mike also said this, like, a game can be a one-man team, or it can be multiple people. And like Zardy's Maze and Cave would not have been possible without Zach, who's an amazing developer. He handled a lot of the back end stuff. I did a lot of the world building, the concepting, also working in Unity itself. And then we have the Regressor, who is an amazing 3D, retro 3D animator and modeler. And these are both people that I met along my YouTube journey. Zach was making a game called Bomb Fest, which is a party game at the time where you basically blow each other up with bombs. Really fun. And then the Regressor was someone who I worked with on a Undertale video, like, it had been like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, whenever Undertale first came out, because he was doing animations at the time for that. And those became the team, and they were the ones that helped us make the games that came out. So I think, I think that's kind of my angle on it.
Yeah.
With the gameplay thing, I think that kind of both the things that were said earlier about gameplay and the horror space, that was something that actually drove me into making the horror game Zardy's Maze, was because there was not a lot of gameplay. I can't remember. No, actually, I can't remember. I remember watching people doing the FNAF challenges, like the 10/20 nights. And it was like the most crazy thing to watch as a viewer online. I can't beat those myself. There's no way in heck I can. I know that, right? But the gameplay of it was like this aggressive, like, whack-a-mole / I don't know, however you want to categorize it, right? But I led with gameplay first for Zardy's Maze. I was like, okay, I want this to be fun. I want it to be challenging. I want it to be punishing. I want it to frustrate people so they leave the maze. But then they're like, you know what? I'm going to pick it back up again tonight. And that was kind of the concept. I wanted to make something that was difficult, that was beatable, but you learned by losing. And Five Nights at Freddy's took my attention right away. That's like a huge inspiration for me, just the gameplay loop with those games. And then you kind of had things like Bendy. I think Bendy took what FNAF did, followed in its footsteps. Honestly, I believe they strongly did that, but in a way where they told a more cohesive story while still leaning into the quote unquote selective storytelling techniques that FNAF did.
Mm.
And so Zardy's Maze was a combination of these things. And I would say the last inspiration for Zardy's Maze was Doki Doki Literature Club. So Doki Doki Literature Club, obviously it's a visual novel game that has a twist. But underneath the surface of that, there's you could say an ARG, right? There is all the character files are puzzles that you can solve, and they eventually lead to something. And that concept was interesting to me. So I'm like, okay, what if I take all these things and combine them in a way where I have a challenge-based game that rewards players for thinking outside the box and solving the game in ways that's unintended, or escaping out of bounds in ways that's unintended, and rewarding them for setting even limitations on themselves. And then you have the crazy players out there who are going to set everything to max and be like, I'm somehow going to overcome this. So Zardy's Maze was definitely a skill-based game. And those were the games that inspired it. And I will say on the opposite side of this, there's another inspiration behind Zardy as a whole, and it's my friends. I think, growing in a creator circle. So I come from sort of a circle of friends called Minus World, where we created videos together for the longest time. And a lot of my peers in that circle went on to make their own projects. So Kevin and Luke of SMG4 made Glitch. You've seen Meta Runner, you've seen Amazing Digital Circus and the projects that they've made. We have Chari5, who was in the chat earlier. He's the voice actor for Fall of Zarada and also Zardy and Drought in the game. Having his project, which is Project Soulstar. My friend Nathaniel Bandy making his own scripted series about injecting himself into like a fan world. My buddy Nintendo making a game called Carl, which is a side scroller. Like having those people close by you who are also pursuing similar creative endeavors, who are your friends. They are your backbone who support you through your journey. It's incredibly inspiring. And seeing where they go beyond YouTube and the things that they fulfill after this point, it always keeps me inspired. And that was definitely a thing that kept me going through game development and trying to figure out, all this.
And speaking of unique, I believe we have now got a little snippet from the wonderful Horrorscoped for an upcoming expansion of the Zardy's universe. So check it out.
There was only one night until the festival. The faint sound of rain droplets hitting the roof began, and the room grew darker. This pitter-patter soon turned into a full rain that drowned out the sounds of the forest. But not the footsteps creeping towards his window. He heard a whisper, a quiet, raspy voice just behind his head that tickled his ear. So close you could almost feel the breath of the speaker.
Go away.
And there we have it. There we go. Horoscope, please take it away. Let us know what we can expect from this and where the Zardy's universe is going in the future and how all that is shaping up for you.
Yeah, so after Zardy's Maze, we began the development of Zardy's Cave, which the first chapter of that game has come out. And alongside the development of Chapter 2, we have also started Fall of Zarada, which is an audio series actually based on that book I mentioned earlier, the thing I started writing in 2013. So it is the expanded universe of where all this stuff comes from. The storytelling in Zardy's Maze was very cryptic. People really had to work hard to get those lower bits out of there to really overcome things and get secret endings and piece it all together. I kind of want to share the story behind it a little bit more. And so this is going to be an episodic series that comes out that follows the original book that I wrote in a way where we can give fans more to stew over. These two worlds are connected, and I think it's going to be kind of exciting for people to be able to listen to this, but also as the chapters come out, kind of take those things and be like, okay, well, hold on, was this something in reference to this, and basically get a more cohesive picture. And so I'm excited about it. I'm honestly really excited for it, because this, in some ways, is the reason I started YouTube. I started YouTube because I'm like, oh, I can make this thing, but I have no one to share it with. I don't know how I'm going to market this thing. Is anyone going to care? And then there's the fear of, as a creator, you make something, you put it out there. I'm like, okay, if it doesn't make a splash, is someone just going to take the idea and run with it? Someone bigger, who has a social following. And so those types of things play into, we talked about imposter syndrome earlier, play into those feelings and freeze you. And so this is really interesting, because after the 10 years of doing YouTube, I'm really excited to do this. It fills me with so much creative energy to just do this alongside making the game. And so it's something that can also appease fans while development's taking place, because development takes a long time in a game. You have to factor in basically every outcome in game development. So this allows fans to still get fed, as they'll call it in chat, while working on bigger projects that take more time. So yeah, Zardy's Cave Chapter 2 is what we're working on, and then Fall of Zarada, there'll be more chapters for that coming out, and it's going to be fun growing both these things together.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we also have a special screenshot, which, Fisher, if we could just throw that up. So we've got, there you go, for all of you who are wanting to see a little bit more of what's to come.
I can collectively hear the screenshot sound effect.
I can hear those Photoshop exposure sliders going up.
I checked that.
Which is so cool. But like, again, what I love about that, and I'm saying that a lot, but I like, honestly, I'm just huge fans of all of you guys and everything you're doing. But I love that this is becoming, it's not just a game anymore. It is a full story. It is a multimedia franchise, essentially, that you are building, which is so cool. And it's going, hey, games are a really good way to tell a story. Like, you've all talked about how I wanted to tell this story through a game, and it's a really cool medium where you get to interact and explore and be like first person in it. But actually, there are some parts of the story, or some stories in general, that can work really well in a different form. That can work. So it's like, you're saying expanding this world. It's like, well, a big part of it is going to work for the game and the chapters that you're releasing. But actually, there's this huge section, or this little part over here, that makes more sense as an audiobook, or that's going to make more sense if your FNAF as 20,000 books. Whatever it is, it allows you to break that down and explore those different mediums, which I think is really fun and gives audiences, pieces to play off in different ways, which I think is just great. And so with that, also, as we're talking about writing, as we're talking about expanding the world and the story, this is game theory. I do have to talk about the lore. It is a contractual requirement that I talk about it in some form. Matt Pat made sure that was in my contract before he left. But I just wanted to talk about literally, how you found writing these stories, how you came up with these stories. Like, some of you said like you've had them for a long time and you just decided to pull the trigger and go for them. But like, how have you found coming up with these stories? What has your approach been to creating the lore, again, based on everything that we know from indie horror? And so how did you want to approach that? How did you want to tell that differently? We talked a little bit about show, don't tell, and like the differences there and how that can sometimes be good, sometimes can be challenging. But also, how have you found it putting those stories, again, for those of you as well who have like had these stories so near and dear to your heart, I'd love to know how it's felt to actually put those out in the world and to have people online go through them, really dig through them, sometimes get the story wrong, and how you find people misinterpreting your stuff. Couldn't be me, but sorry. But yeah, I just love to know kind of your approach to that storytelling, coming up with the ideas, and like what it's then like to have those stories dug through within an inch of their life on this wonderful platform we call YouTube.
I think I probably have the most odd storytelling approach out of anyone here, just because it's layers and layers and layers of puzzle. And so when the game came out, Zardy's Maze, the lore, I'll do a brief recap without spoiling anything, but like there were endings you could get that would give you characters talking that you didn't know who was talking. And you'd have to pair those up with the other endings to kind of get an idea of things going on. But then there were also specific things you could do in the game to, and this gets really obscure, would generate codes for other endings. Like, let's say you found a secret way to beat the game, it would give you a secret code. Well, you take that code, you try to figure out, oh, well, is this a cipher? Is all these different things? No, it's actually just a code you enter into YouTube, and it takes you to an unlisted video, right? As someone who breaks games and data mines games and does all that stuff myself, like I know anything that's in the game is fair game. Like someone's going to find it. There's no way they're not going to. They have all the time in the world. And so I had a system where like, okay, you get these codes, they take you to unlisted videos videos on YouTube you cannot find without the code. But then those all had keys on them. And I used YouTube system basically to, if someone could prove in the comment through a video or some other method that they found the ending legitly and did not cheat with video proof, then I would put an end card for an unlisted video that went to my official channel so people know it was an actual true lore bit, because that same method you could technically abuse too. But and that would have these little animated cutscenes. Honestly, those ones were inspired by those little mini games you'd have in Five Nights at Freddy's, where it's like super like 8-bit, like crunchy audio. You're like barely moving along. And that would show things happening in the game world that then people were like, wait, hold on a second. How does this apply to whatever you learn in the game? And then the lowest of deep lore was the ARG. And this is the thing for this is like, if you make something like an ARG or you develop a story that does require your involvement to reward players when they solve things, you're basically surveying your entire fan base and making sure someone's not going to find it or be ready when they do find it. And so I made a crossword puzzle that was in the game you could find, and all the answers to the crossword puzzle were in different games. And so fans of these games who watched my channels and stuff could then go through this crossword puzzle and they can answer things from indie horror. It's like, oh, this character is from Night in the Woods, or this is some other character from a indie horror game or some other type of game. And then there was the lowest rung of the storytelling was there were 2 answers on this crossword that had to be found in videos that stemmed far beyond people's expectations for how far back the crossword and the ARG could go. The game came out in 2020. The answers were individual letters hidden in darkness in videos that I uploaded in like 2016. And somehow the fan base cracked this. They are super impressive. I was flabbergasted. It was incredible. And then so you have the sleuths that they learned lore that way. They got rewarded with the cutscene. They got rewarded with more tidbits. And then you have the people that push the game to its absolute limits and beat the equivalent of a 1020 or a 5020 on FNAF. And that was, I honestly thought it was impossible. I set up all the rewards for them. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna put this over here. I'm never gonna have to deal with this stuff. There's no way anyone's ever gonna beat this legitly. And they proved me wrong. They overcame it. And then once that challenge was beat, they made even harder things to beat. And so all my story was all rewards. So it's like the game evolved as players would solve things, and it really kind of fed the community in a way that it kept it exciting for a while. Like you work together to solve this thing. Here's more of the story. And then when Zardy's Cave came out, it was more, it's still convoluted, but it's still more, not as convoluted as Zardy's Maze. And so there's more things you're figuring out. And then with the book audio series, there's even more. So it's been evolving, but a strong thing, I think, for storytelling in horror games, especially those who are watching, the smaller your world is, the more interesting your story is. If you've ever watched a show or anything where suddenly the world got bigger. For example, like going from Stranger Things season 1 to Stranger 2. Season 1 was incredible because it was a monster, a house, and oh gosh, don't be there in the dark, right? And the second it started peeling back the layers, it was still interesting, but you no longer had the intimacy. And horror, I think, can really thrive on intimacy. And once you can use that as a tool to develop your plot, but once you take that away, you can't get it back. So that was kind of the deep dive of what Zardy's Maze was. And my fan base, I'm proud of them, and I thank them for the support, because I don't know how they got through that, but they did.
They always are full of surprises.
Thinking like a player. I think for me, it's my job for the content I make on YouTube, breaking games. Like I really have to understand, like, oh, did the developer think of this? Can I break the game like this? If I jump on this table, can Ban get me? Oh, no, he can't. Oh, the whole game broke. Like, it's stuff like that where, it was mentioned earlier about like a film. Like a film, you curate this thing. It is seen from one perspective. A game, someone can walk into a room. They can go left, right, straight. They could just like, I don't want to be in this room. They turn around and go out, right? So you have to anticipate every single thing that a player can do and the order they could possibly do it in. And I think that can be challenging for people because if you're not thinking like that, when you see a player do something that you did not intend, it might break your heart a bit, because you're like, oh wait, why aren't they seeing the thing I want them to do? Oh wait, why is everyone going over here? And so play testing obviously is an important thing for that. But really, I think that's what makes making games difficult when there is multiple mechanics and things you can do, is because everything is an opportunity for a player. And it's really hard to nail down exactly what they're going to do or what most people will do. And even if you do that, then you have the speedrunners who are going to make you question everything, which is great to be humble about them, right? It's an experience, but it's definitely a different mindset. And I think that's also what makes going from YouTube to game dev in our shoes a little easier, because we already had to navigate how do people perceive this video, or it's a similar skill set in terms of perception. So it did make that leap a little easier. Piggybacking off that.
Fight that. Go ahead, sir.
I know you're good. Piggybacking off that, I think there's two things that come to mind. Mechanics. When you add more mechanics, you're multiplying your dev time exponentially by all the different bugs you have to do. I can't tell you how many different times because we have a few different mechanics. You have crouching, you have, I guess you could call sliding, you have what's called a hard fall, you have rock climbing, you have mantle system, chopping, you have an axe you chop stuff with. There's going to be a light you can use that Zardy's Maze fans are familiar with. A lot of mechanics, right? And there's even more that aren't here. Oh, growing plants, right? All these things, they can all play with each other, but it can create insane amount of scope creep when you come up with a cool idea of like, oh, this is really cool for this room or this area. But then you realize like, okay, how do I carry this throughout the rest of the game? But two, is this going to break something in the future? And so it can, and alongside that, I will say the other part of that is managing your game's timeline with hype and your community is hyped for something. Like you put something out and they're expecting, something to kind of top the last thing. It can be very dangerous in some ways because I'll use Poppy Playtime for an example. Chapter 1 is 30 minutes. Chapter 4 is like 24 hours long. There's a difference in terms of how long it takes to get through those, right? And so the hype got bigger and bigger with each chapter. And so each chapter had to deliver bigger things. And when you come back and play that it's a cohesive game, well, that caused problems for people because the chapters aren't evenly spaced out. Like if you pop open a book and read a book, you can probably expect chapter 1 and 2 to be the same length as chapter 8 or 9. But when you get, so that's something where with scope creep, I think hype can force your hand sometimes, and you have to be willing to be like, okay, yes, it may not be as hype, but to maintain the integrity of the game, but two, your original vision, you have to be mindful not to dip into it and let it control what you should do.
Horoscope Zardy's is on Steam, isn't it? I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, Zardy's Maze is on Steam. Zardy's Cave is also on Steam.
There we
1's
go.
on Steam.
There you go. So go and download those and look forward to the audiobook that's coming out later. And this, guys, I think we're going to have a very, very good 2026.